Hey guys, we're starting the next live stream, this time about a topic that really matters to me. Hey, nice to see you here. Hi everyone, how are you doing today? I hope you had an amazing beginning of the week. I'm really glad you're here. Today, I want to share with you a really personal story. I will talk. Oh, my mom is here. Hi, mom. Cześć, mamusia. I want to share my personal story and I want to talk about ROCD, so about relationship OCD and how support each other, not only the sufferers, but also the close ones, really matters. So I'm so excited to speak with amazing person, amazing guest. I will invite her. Let's start. Let me know if you can hear me, if you can see me, if you want to. Oh, wow. Hey.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, wait a second. I will put my earplugs.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, awesome.
Uh, yeah, so I really want to tell that I'm okay, but I'm not because I'm at starting point in my divorce case. So it's really hard time right now, but I think this is a good opportunity to speak about how important supporting each other is, how what we can do as sufferers, but also as close ones to support each other. But first, I'm so excited to see you here. I'm so excited that you are here and that you took my invitation, and I'm really happy to see you here. So thank you so much for joining this live stream.
Oh, well, thank you so much for being willing to just connect and, to share about also your experience with OCD, ROCD a bit with me, um, and to just like be willing to just, share information about like the group that I started and what I'm trying to do. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I think this is really necessary to create a safe space to OCD sufferers, but also to their partners, because we both know that OCD is the problem of the whole family, the whole system, the relations, and it is so important to spread awareness about such an important topic. So once again, thank you so much, Monica, for joining this live stream. And can you tell people who you are, what you are doing, and yeah, let's introduce yourself in a few words, and we can start.
Sure, definitely. So I'm based in New York. My name is Monica, and I'm a therapist in New York, a licensed mental health counselor. Part of the reason I, got into therapy is because of my own experience with OCD. And I specialize in working with clients like navigating OCD, all forms of OCD, whether it's contamination OCD, checking, pedophilia OCD, harm OCD, relationship OCD. And then relationship OCD is something I'm especially passionate about working with because I'm also a couples therapist. I'm very interested in, relationships in general and just different things that come up in relationships. And I think relationship OCD is something that is very misunderstood. Um,
Mhm.
it's
I
basically
think
something.
sorry, I think especially because it is combined with natural relationship problems, and it
Hmm.
is really hard to see what really OCD is and what the normal problems of family or relations are.
Yeah, yeah, I think it's something that's incredibly confusing because a natural level of discernment exists in all relationships, of just kind of deciding like shared values or compatibility. But I think when someone's experiencing relationship OCD, any sign of disconnection or incompatibility can lead to very intrusive thoughts that lead to a lot of like suffering, a lot of compulsions and ruminations, reassurance seeking tied to
Mm.
alleviating the pain caused by those intrusive thoughts. Um, but it does get very confusing, and I think something that a lot of people with relationship OCD experience is kind of this relentless questioning of like, is this OCD or is this like my real thoughts? And I feel like at the core of OCD, generally speaking, is doubt. And I think the when it shows up in relationships, it's especially there just because of the natural level of discernment that can exist in relationships.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I I want to start about from the point why this conversation really matters, because I know how being together in this fight, how important it is.
Hmm.
And without understanding and without supporting each other, it is barely possible to survive. I
Hmm.
think so, because you know, when we are going to therapy and we're doing few steps forwards, but no one can understand us,
Hmm.
and there is a lot of shame. This is really hard. So I really want to spread awareness, to make people feel less alone, but also to make their close ones more aware about what we're struggling with. But also, we have to understand as OCD sufferers that our close ones are overwhelmed too, and this is also really hard for them.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, one of the so what I've recently started is a group for couples where one partner is navigating relationship OCD. And the point of the group is to create a space, yes, for the person who's experiencing relationship OCD to be able to process their experience and feel this sense of like support with other people who are experiencing something similar. But it's also a space for those in a relationship with someone experiencing ROCD to be able to process their experience, because I think that the emotions tied around just how hard it can be to support someone, and also the own sense of like how OCD can distort the sense of reality of the partner in the situation.
Hmm.
um, it's like it can be a very isolating experience, and I feel like support is needed on all sides, and without anyone to blame, I guess, like, but the OCD at like the root of it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think we can talk a bit about how misunderstood ROCD is and how overwhelming it can be for OCD sufferers and for their close ones. One important point is that OCD is for the first from the first symptoms to the proper diagnosis and treatment.
Hmm.
This is something about from 7 to 15 years, and this is a lot. And
Hmm.
this is a long period of time, and we can struggle with OCD, with ROCD, as in my case. I was struggling with ROCD from probably 2020
Hmm.
for 3 years without telling anyone, without telling my wife. I was struggling inside, but I felt ashamed of telling to anyone. And this was so overwhelming for me because I felt alone, but also I understood at some point that it was also so overwhelming for my wife because she also wasn't aware of that this is OCD.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I imagine it was so isolating because it's I like throughout that time period, you were also trying to grasp like what was happening, and I'm sure like you were experiencing doubt too. Um, and it is like so isolating because I feel like in society there's such a like rhetoric of if you know someone's the one, they're the one, or like, you shouldn't have any doubt about the person you're with. And that
Hmm.
could make it an extremely isolating situation to be experiencing such tremendous doubt about a relationship, to want to be in it, but also be like so confused about like if it's like the right relationship. And then also to just feel like you can't really share that with anyone.
Yeah,
I imagine it must have been like very difficult.
yeah. Or in my case, it was like, what if my wife is cheating on me?
Mm,
And reassurance seeking was like asking many times for where have you been? What did you do? With whom? And this was so frustrating for me because I was repeating these questions again and again, but
mm,
it was also frustrating for her.
mm, mm. And I imagine like when those intrusive thoughts would come up, it would be like such an like a profoundly difficult experience for you, where it's almost like your body is in like a fight or flight state. And so it feels like getting that reassurance is like what's necessary. Like I feel like a lot of the times with OCD, there's this like urgency to like wanting to make the
Yeah,
experience go away.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
And when I understood that I need help, that I need to go to therapy, I think this was the first step to change my behaviors,
mm,
to understand what I can do to have better life, but also to understand how hard it was for my close ones.
mm,
Um, you know, uh, every single day. And yeah, I went to therapy, but at this point, I think this is so important to understand the other point of view from different perspectives because many times OCD sufferers can think that, oh my God, this is my problem. This is so hard time for me.
mm,
So everyone around us should support us.
mm.
And we can absolutely forget about that this is also a struggle for our close ones. And this is one thing to understand this. I know this is hard when I was struggling and I had really, really tough OCD days. It is hard to understand that someone can be overwhelmed also.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think it's also like, do you feel like in your experience there was like guilt that came up related to that?
Hmm? Yeah. And you know, I when I shared my OCD experience with my wife, I thought that I will have support or understanding, but this is totally understandable that someone without OCD will understand us
Mm.
because this is not possible. But I think being aware that this is OCD and this is not me, this is just a part of my brain that I didn't choose, and being aware of that is the first step for our close ones to understand, to help, to find help, and to educate
Yeah.
themselves also.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine like getting that clarity and that like diagnosis of like this is OCD that I'm experiencing. It helped like externalize the experience a little bit. Um, and I know you're saying, like with people who are experiencing OCD, it's hard to like create space for the ways in which the experience affects those around us. And I think that's true. And I also want to highlight that like that's also coming from like a very real place of suffering where it's like really hard
Mhm.
to like you're just grappling with so much that it's hard to realize like the effect that it's having on others. And I think relationship OCD is one of the manifestations of OCD where that really, really shows up because the OCD attacks the relationship.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I also think, and this is one of the most one one of the many important things, but this is really helpful that close ones who are in the same space, in the same relationship with someone with OCD should also take care of themselves. And also, their therapy is really important. Not only for us, but also for our families, because it would be great when my wife will decide to go with me to therapy to better understand me, but I know that it is hard, and she didn't want to go to therapy with me. But also, this is so important to be aware that okay, I am struggling also. I am overwhelmed, so I can go for external help, for specialist help.
Hmm. 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 Yeah, I think that um, I think that's kind of like the essence of the group that I'm creating. It's like, what does it mean to create a space for the person experiencing OCD and relationship OCD, and to create space for like the emotional experience underlying the OCD, and to also create space for the partner who has their own like whole spectrum of emotions that are coming up in response
Absolutely.
to like the OCD, and like to essentially like create space for those emotional experiences and say that like neither of the emotional experiences are wrong. Um,
Absolutely. This is a really tough time for both sides, and we have to set a healthy boundaries. This is so important because it is the coin has two sides, and so many people want to support their close ones, but they're they're making them their OCD worse
yeah.
because it is about making everything to help them, but it is engaging in compulsions.
Yeah.
So this is one thing, and second thing is that they totally don't understand this, and mm, they're trying to convince us that we should just stop thinking about this, that everyone is a bit OCD, and this is really, really harmful.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think has been most supportive for you in navigating your experience of OCD in terms of like other people in your life, like responding to you or supporting you? What have you found most helpful?
So I can tell you about my friends. No worries about the comments. The spammers are
Yeah.
oh everywhere. So uh, I can say this about my friends, my really close friends,
Hmm.
that they when I shared my feelings and my problem with OCD after my diagnosis, they didn't judge me. They tried to talk with me without judgment, and they tried to be empathetic.
Hmm.
And this helped me a lot because I started to feel less alone.
Hmm.
But, you know, in my case, the situation between me and my wife was much more difficult and complicated because, you know, this is all about OCD awareness, mental health awareness in general, because I heard many times that I'm going to therapy because I want to pay for talking.
Hmm.
And this was really, really harmful. Or after 2 years of therapy, I should know much more than my therapist.
Hmm.
So these are words from my wife, and this was something like I moved forward thanks to my therapy, but then I was pulling down because, misunderstanding or lack of understanding OCD.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So it seems like you're in this situation with your friends, like there was like genuine curiosity and non-judgment and like a desire to
Yeah,
really understand your experience.
yeah,
But
absolutely. I also have a lot of support, and my friends are letting me know that what I'm doing, it is great. It is something really valuable,
yeah.
and this is amazing because I started to feel less shame. I
Hmm.
started to feel that I can be myself, and that mental health problems uh, are, something like if you have for example, uh, broken leg, you go immediately to the hospital. So why mental health disorders uh, are something like taboo?
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, yeah. Like just normalizing the experience,
Yeah,
which I think is so freeing in a way, and it allows you to like heal fully. And I think that having like a platform like the one you have is such a great message because it's essentially saying like it's creating space for like a lot of people who have that experience and probably suffer in silence to just feel less alone. Um, but I think that what you're saying with the tabooness, like I think that's something that really shows up with OCD because the nature of like the obsessions can be around subjects that are extremely like societally taboo, and so it could be even hard to talk
yeah,
about.
yeah. And I through my Instagram and through my advocacy, I really want to change how people see mental health conditions and mental health in general,
Hmm.
because as you said, taboo, this is like taboo, but in OCD we have few taboo topics. And when I try to explain my wife that there are so many different topics like ROCD, harm OCD, or POCD,
Mm.
she told me that if she will meet someone with such a thought, she will kill this person.
Mm.
So this showed me how misunderstood OCD is and how people can think that thoughts mean actions. What is totally not true, because in OCD, intrusive thoughts are ego dystonic, so we don't want them. They're hits our values.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I mean, I'm so sorry that you had to experience that because I feel like already as someone who's suffering with OCD, you're like reckoning with these thoughts. You're like questioning, like, do I believe this? Like, that's such a strong experience that people have. And then to be met by a loved one with these like judgmental comments is so, so isolating, so, so scary. And like you said,
Yeah,
it's not true. And it's just because of a lack of like awareness and education on the way it shows up.
yeah,
And
yeah,
like I think what you said is like people with OCD like are like their thoughts are completely ego dystonic. There's like just a total like not desire to act in any way on like the content of their thoughts.
hmm yeah, absolutely. And I think before one more thing, and guys, I should tell this that this is trigger warning. So if you are uh, okay with that, you can hear that. But I want, I really want to tell about this for the first time here, because I know how destructible it can be, especially for OCD sufferers in really tough days.
Mhm.
So I was suicidal twice, and one time I heard from my wife that, yeah, do this. This is your life. And second one, I heard that I have no balls to jump under the train.
Mhm.
And this was so painful and so incredible, harmful for me, but also for all OCD community, because this thinking is absolutely wrong. And, I don't want to expect from people without OCD to totally understand this. And I don't expect them to go to therapy just for understanding us. But I think we need spread awareness and we need empathy and empathy, yeah, in general, because yeah, there are so many people that suffers alone.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, I'm like so sorry that you had to experience that. It's it doesn't even seem like it was like a lack of support. It was like additional like these incredibly like toxic, emotionally abusive like comments like on top of just like what you were experiencing. Um,
Yeah, I know this is so hard, but I think now we can make step forward and
mhm.
speak about this, how couples, but also I think friends, because ROCD is not only about romantic relationships, it's about relationships in general. So
Yeah.
it can affect the friendships also, or relations between sister and brother, or between me and my animal, because it hits our values. And what we can do to go through this fight with ROCD together, what what we can do to support each other, but also to better understand what we're going through without judgment. And I'm talking not only about OCD sufferers, but also about our partners, our
Mhm.
friends, our kids.
Yeah, I mean, so the group that I'm starting with, like as I mean that I'm currently running, um, the idea is to create a space for couples, like I guess, and like you said, relationship OCD can be about all sorts of relationship, but this one focuses on romantic relationships. Um, and it works through an emotionally focused therapy lens, which is a modality of therapy that is about understanding and creating space for the underlying emotional experience behind conflict that arises in relationships and create
Mhm.
space for it. And essentially, like what it looks like is um, a lot of the times in relationship work, there's a lot of a focus on like problem solving or compromise or just like coming up with a solution to the
Mhm.
problem. And what emotionally focused therapy highlights is that it's actually not about problem solving that brings like healing in relationships. It's about emotional attunement, which would be each person, member of the relationship, being able to be like emotionally attuned to the other's experience. And like you said, like that involves like a lot of like empathy. It involves being able to almost like step outside of your own perspective and enter the perspective of the other and really be able to like empathize, be emotionally affected, put yourself in the shoes of like the other person and try to like see the world through their eyes. And that experience of being seen can be so incredibly healing. So what that looks like in the group is taking turns, like both for the person who's experiencing ROCD and for the partner, for each person in that relationship, like getting into the other person's experience and trying to like cultivate empathy. And the more and more empathy that's created, the more understanding there is, the less like defenses arise when conflict comes up, because both people are more attuned to each other. Um, so that's kind of
Yeah.
like what I definitely think leads to healing in a lot of these dynamics.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have friends who experienced trauma, and at the first point, I didn't understand what's going on, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I don't understand. Why are you feeling this way?" But jumping to the other one's shoes and changing our point of view and accepting that all feelings are, you know, valid.
Hmm.
This is incredibly important, and this can totally change our relationships or relations with our friends, because only to accepting that many people can go through the different hard situations in totally different way.
Hmm.
Uh, it's the first step to support each other.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like, I think that there's something so beautiful, like just about getting closer to another person's experience and understanding it more. And things just start to soften. But I think it's really like a skill that needs to be cultivated, the skill of empathy. And chances are when you get closer to another person's experience and really try to see the world through their eyes, like you will feel it on a like on an emotional level. And then, emotions will just get softer, less like defensive, um,
Yeah,
which is which is really great.
yeah, absolutely. And I think also for our close ones, I know this is so hard to live with someone with OCD without diagnose, and uh, without therapy. It's really overwhelming.
Mhm.
But then understanding that this was OCD, he he went through really, really hard times. And from the other point of view, understand our close ones and be more empathetic. It's a really good start to go towards our values and towards repairing our relationship.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I think it can be like intrinsically, like it can be scary to empathize because it can feel like you're letting your guard down a little bit, but it can be intrinsically rewarding as well because it can be like values based. Like empathy can be a value that you decide that you want to live by, and no
Yeah,
matter what happens in the relationship, it's gonna feel good for you to be able to like live by that value.
yeah, absolutely. I have in my head also one thing. We have also to remember that our partners are not therapists, and we can't expect to to take from them professional help or professional advices, because this is not possible. Therapists have their own therapies also,
Yeah.
just to cope with all those hard times and hard feelings with clients. And our partners don't. So this is also important to understand this.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I think it's hard because in our society, like we do place like a lot of emphasis on like the relationships and what it can offer us. Um, but having like a separate space with a therapist who like supports you and you can really do like deeper processing work with can like lessen maybe like the weight that's placed on, a partner to like respond perfectly every time. Because probably that's
Yeah,
going to happen.
yeah, absolutely. And I think the more spaces like yours, like, support groups for couples,
Hmm.
and the more awareness, then the world can be a better place, and the relationships can be stronger when they will will go through this fight together.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, I hope so. I mean, that's definitely like the goal of having like a space like this. Like, I think a lot of the times there's starting to be more and more support groups for people who are struggling or suffering with a variety of mental health conditions, and then also having support groups and spaces for the people who are supporting those people. I feel like a lot of this is changing, and the more spaces there are, hopefully, like the more healing can happen. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, absolutely. But first is to have a will to
yeah.
try to understand, and it is about OCD sufferers and their close ones, because when someone don't want to go to therapy,
Hmm.
we can't do anything. And
Yeah.
there can be many OCD sufferers who think that there is no problem.
Hmm.
The whole world is problem.
Hmm.
So this this is a really hard situation because you can't start therapy when you don't want to go to therapy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the same about our close ones. When someone don't want to understand, this is barely possible to make them to go to therapy.
Yeah. I think it's definitely like an internal decision that everyone has to make for themselves. Um, I guess like you can't really force anyone to do anything. But I feel like the more and more awareness there is, the more normalizing there is, like the more like unfortunately, like historically, I think there's so much stigma around seeking like support and therapy, and like that's changing, I think, in a lot of ways. Um, um, but yeah, I think it's an incredibly brave decision to decide to like go to see a therapist. It's really intimidating. It's like I'm in a room with this person I don't know, and like I'm going to be asked to talk about
Yeah,
like the most personal parts of my life. Like it is intimidating, and I feel like anyone should know that even like taking that step is so brave.
yeah,
And and also that it takes time, and like it might not feel better. Like it might feel worse before it feels better, I think also. Um,
yeah, absolutely. And I wish everyone to have partner who will support them and who even will go with them to therapy because this is so intimate moment when you have someone who wants to be with you in this fight.
yeah.
And yeah, I think
Yeah.
this is really valuable.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think as much as there's a stigma around individual therapy, there's even like more of a stigma around like couples therapy. Like, what does it mean about my relationship if I have to go to couples therapy? But I think that's changing, and I think like so much of healing does happen relationally, and there is something about like someone being there with you and being able to like work through things that are coming up that can be like so beautiful and like so healing. Um, and I think everyone needs it. Like I feel like, or not everyone, but I think it could benefit so many people in different ways just to like be able to process because relationships are very difficult.
Yeah, yeah, I know. Yeah, and Monica, at the end, when you would give everyone one advice,
Mhm.
what is a really important, what would it be?
Like advice for themselves, kind of.
Yeah.
Um,
In when we speak about relationship OCD, so
mhm.
about understanding.
I think like the empathy piece would be what I would really like highlight is that there's no limit on the amount of empathy that you can have for the other person, for yourself. Like if you're the person experiencing OCD, you can give yourself tremendous amounts of empathy and you can give your partner tremendous amounts of empathy or anyone who's affected. And like vice versa as well. Like I think for the person who's in the relationship and their partner might experiencing OCD, they can give their themselves empathy and they can give their partner empathy, and those two things can coexist. Like I think sometimes it feels like there's like a limit on the amount of empathy we're allowed to have, and we want to like jump to like blaming someone. But I think that we don't realize how like healing empathy can be. So that would definitely be my
Yeah,
advice.
yeah, I totally agree with you, Monica, and I wish you guys a lot of empathy and a lot of kindness and self-compassion also,
Yeah,
because this is
definitely.
really important. So, Monica, let us know where people can join your support group. This is online group?
Yeah, so it's a virtual group. Right now it's available to people in New York, although starting like kind of like a coaching group for like people, anywhere. It's like virtual. On my Instagram, my website is there. It's called onlivingpsychotherapy.com. And there you can like contact me and inquire about signing up for the group. This current group meets on Tuesdays from 5 to 6:30 p.m. Eastern time. But the plan is to start like more groups um, and at different times throughout the week based on
Yeah,
based on interest.
yeah. Absolutely. This is so amazing, and I wish you the best. And I hope your support groups will help many people. And when I will share this live stream, guys, you can find Monica there in the description of our conversation. And I hope that someone can listen to our conversation and can feel less alone.
Yeah.
And I hope, Monica, that I will be able finally to meet you in person.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much for being willing to like talk about it and also to share like your story. I think again, like I think that's extremely brave. Um, and I'm excited to stay connected and just keep.
Thank you so much. And I know that this is not our last conversation. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, thank you so much, Monica, and have a nice day.
Thank you. You too. Bye bye.
Bye.